Hi everyone, back with me again, Joseph, your host, and welcome back to our channel and the Catechism for Kids. Have you ever felt sad, confused, or found yourself asking, why is this happening to me? If you have, you're not alone. Sometimes life throws things at us that are really hard to understand. Today we're going to dive deep into a powerful story from the Old Testament, the book of Job. It's a story about a good and faithful man who went through unimaginable suffering, yet he never, ever stopped trusting God. This story is perfect for anyone, kids and adults alike, who has ever wondered where God is when life gets tough. Job's journey is one of pain and questioning, but through it all, God reveals a profound truth. His love is bigger than our suffering, it's bigger than our fear, and bigger than any storm we could ever face in our lives. So, grab a comfy seat, and let's explore this incredible book together. First, let's talk about who Job was. The story begins by telling us that Job was a very good man. He loved God, lived a faithful life, and always tried to do the right thing. He was blessed with a big, happy family. He was wealthy, and he was in good health. By all accounts, Job was living a great life. But then, everything changed. In a very short time, Job lost almost everything he held dear. He lost his children, his wealth, and his health. Imagine going from having everything to having nothing. It's a heartbreaking situation. His body was covered in painful sores, and he was left with nothing but his questions and his grief. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting. Despite all this immense loss, Job did not turn away from God. He was in deep pain, he was confused, and he definitely had a lot of questions. But he never lost his faith. This is the core of the story. The book of Job teaches us that it's okay to cry. It's okay to ask tough questions. It's even okay to tell God when life feels way too heavy to carry, because he listens, he understands, and he never, ever abandons his children. The book of Job is one of the oldest books in the Bible. Some scholars believe it was written even before many other books we know, while others think it was written later, maybe during the time of the exile when the Jewish people were far from their home. The truth is, we don't know for sure who wrote it or exactly when. The author never gives their name. But what we do know is that the church has always recognized the deep, spiritual truth in this book. The story was passed down through generations because its message is timeless and incredibly important. It's written in a unique style. The beginning and the end are like a regular story, telling us what happens to Job. But the middle part, which is the longest section, is written as poetry. This poetic section is a series of long, passionate speeches. Job and three of his friends go back and forth debating why Job is suffering. His friends have a simple theory. Job must have done something wrong to deserve this. They try to give easy answers to his very hard problem. But Job insists he's been a good person. He doesn't understand, and he cries out to God for an explanation. This poetic style is so powerful because it helps us feel Job's pain and confusion. It's not just a simple story. It's a deep, emotional dive into the human struggle with suffering. The language is rich with imagery and strong words, showing us just how intense their debate was. Let's break down the structure of the book so you can follow it easily. It begins with chapters 1 and 2, where Job's story starts. We see him as a good man, and then we witness his tragic losses. His three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, come to sit with him in silence. Then comes the longest part. It's from chapter 3 all the way to chapter 31. This is the poetic dialogue between Job and his friends. Job speaks first, wishing he had never been born. Then his friends take turns trying to convince him that his suffering is a punishment for some hidden sin. Job defends himself and continues to call out to God. After this, a new character appears in chapter 32, a young man named Elihu. He's been listening to the whole debate, and he offers a different perspective. Elihu suggests that God can use suffering to teach people and draw them closer to him, not just as a punishment. And then comes the climax of the book. In chapter 38, God finally answers Job, but he doesn't answer from a throne or in a quiet whisper. God speaks to Job from a whirlwind, a powerful storm. And what God says is fascinating. He doesn't give Job a neat list of reasons for his suffering. He doesn't say, Job, this happened because of a B and C. Instead, God reminds Job of his own power and wisdom. He asks Job a series of questions. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Can you command the morning? Do you know the laws of the heavens? God shows Job the vastness and complexity of creation, from the stars in the sky to the animals in the sea. He reminds Job that human understanding is limited. We simply don't see the whole picture that God sees. In this moment, Job realizes that God is infinitely greater and wiser than he is. He humbles himself and puts his complete trust in God, even without getting all the answers. So what are the key lessons the book of Job teaches us, especially in our Catholic faith? First, it tackles the reality of suffering and faith. It shows us that bad things can and do happen to good people. Suffering isn't always a sign that you did something wrong. Our faith teaches us that suffering can have a deep meaning even when we don't understand it. It can be an opportunity to grow closer to God. Second, it's a masterclass in trust. Job never stops talking to God. He complains, he questions, he argues, but he keeps the conversation going, keeps praying. This is a powerful lesson for us. We can and should stay close to God, especially when life is hard. Being honest with God about our pain is a sign of a real relationship with Him. Third, the book reminds us that God is greater than us. God's ways are higher than our ways. We are called to trust His plan, even when it's confusing. His response from the whirlwind isn't an explanation, it's a revelation of His majesty. It also gives us a lesson on friendship. Job's friends meant well, but they were wrong. They tried to speak for God and ended up hurting Job more. This is a warning for us to be humble and compassionate when we're with someone who is suffering, rather than trying to give simple, easy answers. Finally, the book ends with hope and new life. In the last chapter, chapter 42, God restores Job. He tells Job's friends they were wrong and has Job pray for them. Then, God blesses Job with a new family, more wealth than before, and a long, full life. This ending shows us that God doesn't forget us in our suffering. Our Catholic faith is built on this hope, the belief that God can bring good out of any bad situation, and that ultimately, our story ends in resurrection and new life with Him. So why does this ancient book still matter so much today? Because we all face moments of loss, pain, and confusion. The book of Job validates our feelings. It tells us it's okay to be sad and to have questions. It shows us that true faith isn't about pretending everything is fine. True faith is about holding on to God even when nothing makes sense. It reminds us that our suffering doesn't mean God has abandoned us. In fact, it's often in our darkest moments that God is closest, waiting for us to turn to Him. The story of Job empowers us to be honest in our prayers and to trust that even when we can't see the path ahead, God is guiding us with a plan full of love. You may not hear the book of Job read at Mass very often, but it is part of our lectionary, used during ordinary time and especially at funerals, where its message of hope in the face of loss is so needed. The Church gives us this book as a guide for navigating the hardest parts of life. So I encourage you to read it. You don't have to read it all at once. Take your time with it. Ponder the questions it asks. Let the poetry sink in. And think about how it applies to your own life. Have you ever felt like Job? What did you learn from that experience? The story of Job is a timeless reminder that even when the storms of life are raging, our God is the God of the whirlwind, infinitely powerful, infinitely wise, and infinitely loving. He is with us, and He can be trusted. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope this exploration of the book of Job has given you some comfort and encouragement. If you found this helpful, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more content, and share your own thoughts about the book of Job in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.